Hey guys, so just getting ready to spray here. I usually, just before I do that, I'm going to just test. I did a little test of just some thinner first. I always test that very initially, just to make sure I'm getting flow. Yeah, this looks very nice. You can see that color coming in there very nicely. That's our green. So I've got some good success here. I'd always double check my PSI, which is sitting at 20 now, but it'll spray at about 15, which is just right for this thickness of, for this Tamiya paint. And remember, we're not doing up in this boom area. We're just gonna do everything that's kind of exposed here right now. And kind of just work our way around here. All right, so let's get started. So I always just start with actually what I usually do is, very first thing is just do a air spray. Make sure I don't have any little hairs or dust or things that are just kind of hanging out there. In fact, normally it's a little late, but I'm just going to use the tack cloth over in this area. It's a little late for tack cloth here, but okay. And then after I do that, I normally just double check those edges. Sure, happy with how that's all sitting. Okay, this time we're set. So try that again. As I say, kind of a dusting. That's how I like to start. Just giving it a hint of the color that we're going to be obviously laying in much more thickly here. Got to really be careful about the distance that you're, just to always be trying to be aware of that, so that it's somewhat consistent as you're moving the model around. You can kind of get some unexpected results. All right, so that's a pretty good initial dusting. And then I normally just leave it a little bit more in these areas. Okay, so I'll just give that a second. So you can see that's really coming out nice. I love the color. So this time it's going to get a little bit thicker. I'm going to come in just a little bit closer, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of air, just all around, to help set that first dusting up. Something for the rest of the next coat to kind of cling on to here. We already had primer, but this can't hurt. So as you can see, I'm just coming in a little bit closer now and just laying it in just a little bit thicker. Making sure to get those back edges as well. And really paying attention to this front facing. And making sure I get up underneath here. It's kind of a tricky spot. To make sure I get enough coverage. And then come in a little bit thicker again here. You see I'm coming in a lot closer there. That's a pretty good coat, as you can tell. Just coming in and touching up. Make sure I have consistent. Don't forget the top angles, which I did forget on my last coat apparently. So I'm going to have to come back, make sure I hit those on my next coat especially well. Same on the undersides of these. Okay. And I'm just going to give it some air. So this is looking just awesome. It's just exactly the color that I wanted. So that's great. I do see one small area there that I'm still not in love with. So I still may need to do a bit of touch up there. But that'll be a touch up I think that I can handle after. In general though, and from what I'm seeing, I'm loving all my seams look great, especially these inside seams. They were pretty tricky. If you recall, they really were big gaps and took a lot of work to get them where they are there now. I'm just gonna quickly check my paint level in the canister before I get going on the next coat. I just don't want to run out as I'm going here. It's my okay, there we go. It's a little tricky to get that off sometimes, especially when there's a lot of paint there. So it is getting a little low. So you can see how much is in there. I had started with a full, so we've laid in a bit of paint. Thankfully I made quite a big batch, so I've got lots here. There we go, that should be plenty for the third coat. For sure. Okay. Always put that lid back on whenever we're dealing with this much paint in. It's a really good idea to keep the lid on there, especially the way I kind of move around. It's really easy to have that just spill out. All right, so this is looking really good. I'm gonna come in here and lay in a bit more deliberate coat. As you can see, I'm getting it to almost basically be wet. and making sure I get all the angles on those nacelles. I'll come back to that in a minute here. Just as you know, I really want to make sure I get that front. You can see pretty wet coat. I'm being sure to move pretty quick when I'm this close and I'm laying it in that thick, because you can see it could pool very, very easily and get a run, especially on all these interesting angles. That's one of the interesting challenges with so many different angles. Just want to make sure and I get that top. Remember, we've a history of missing that. Same on this one. I want to make sure I got the top here. I just love the shapes in this model. They're such interesting that it gives you the shadows of the color just by the nature of the way that it works. I just find that really captivating. Love it. It's why they call it kind of the stingray back end, because it has that sort of like a stingray. It's really neat. So now we're just spraying air. I'm out of my color, but that happens to work perfectly. As we're pretty much done that. I'm going to let it sit for a minute. I am going to just put a little bit more paint in here and do one more spray. One more kind of dusting as well. There we go. So I made a good amount and used a lot of it. There's not a lot left there. So we know we did pretty well there. There should be enough to just do the lightning and do the boom and the bridge, because it's a much smaller area that we're doing there. But it should be just enough. I'm going to just come in one more time and catch a couple more of these areas. I'm going to come in over top of that one. I can see already I need to come in like that angle on that back end there, because I was never getting just in there. It's just possible for me to catch that area. So I wanted to do that. And then most importantly, I wanted to hit this front again, especially up in here. Just bearing in mind that has to be the final. I'm going to be taping that dark green on those little sleeve parts coming out. So there's no going back there. Then I want to make sure I get the tops of these nacelles again, just because I missed them on the first go around. So that's really, really loving the color, obviously. And then just that dusting I was talking about to give it that powdery sort of look. I really like my spaceships to have. I don't know why, I just do. Yeah, and that's basically it. And we just ran out, so perfect amount. And that's that. So we'll set that aside to dry for 24 hours, and then we'll and so this is how much that we ended up having left. I put the full amount in there, so you can see plenty to lighten down. So really came out just perfect. I think couldn't really ask for that to be much better. So I'll just clean up my brush, and yeah, hope you enjoyed that.